Welcome back to another episode of Ground Gaming HD, back in Stronghold Crusader, and today we're going to be having 3 games in one video. The first one is going to be an old friend. We start off with 2,000 gold, and I wanted to try out a snipe because why not? We're going to be going with our assassins and basically just attempt to get the win within just a few seconds. And all that is going to involve is basically selling everything that we have, recruiting a ton of assassins, as many as possible, as much as our money will allow, and then essentially go for the snipe. And as you can see, the AI is a little bit slow, but we essentially get through very quickly. We send our assassins up. The macemen do try and counter it. We use some of our horse archers to kind of... I don't know where that one's going, but we use our horse archers to basically distract a little bit, but overall it's very easy to get the snipe in this one. Create the assassins, get the kill, and it's very straightforward. So it's good to see that it is possible. This is, as I said, not the most entertaining, but I wanted to try it out just to see how easy it actually was, and well, it was as easy as I had thought it could have been. So with our first game out of the way, we can move on to our second one. This was the Arabian Adventure. This time we start off with 4,000 gold, and it's against the 3 snakes. And this one turned out to be completely unexpectedly weird, and I'll tell you why. Hopefully what you're seeing is going to give you a hint why, because we're already several minutes into the game, and you can see the number of buildings, the number of units is, let's just say, somewhat scarce. So I've been able to start to build up my castle. I'm not doing a particularly good job, but there's essentially no resistance. So I finished off my castle, at least just to have the aesthetics, but other than that, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a particularly complicated game. Even though it's against 3 snakes, you'd imagine that would be quite difficult, but we're going to just go because there's literally no one defending the first snake, the blue snake, and we're just going to take the first dub there, no problems at all. And then we're going to move on to the second one as well. Recruit a few more assassins, recruit a few more horse archers, and we can move on to the second one. Not a problem at all. Already focusing on the third one, the yellow one. We get the kill for the second one, and I really have got no idea why the AI was not creating buildings, was not creating units. Only the second one was kind of creating some sort of buildings. It might have been a glitch, it might have been something, who knows? Who knows? But regardless, we're going to take the win. Very straightforward, a bunch of horse archers. I think you only really need 5, 6, 7 assassins to kill the king, which we obviously have plenty more there. And so with that, we're going to take the win against the third snake, and we're going to be able to move on from the Arabian Adventure. The 4k gold was great at the start, but with that out of the way, this is going to be our proper, let's just say our proper game, because this is going to be a bit more of a challenge. So we start out the game, this is called the Endless Desert. We start off with 10,000 gold, which is plenty to start out with. And this is with the Lionheart, and it's against us, it's us again with the Lionheart versus the Wolf. Now, the Wolf is a formidable opponent, not only because of the units that are produced, a range of catapults and pikemen and so on and so forth, but also the defensive structure. The actual castle itself is extremely thick walls. They use moats, they use trebuchets as a defensive mechanism, so it's very difficult to kind of properly get in. They have plenty of units to defend themselves, ballistas, everything. It's kind of one of the most formidable opponents. But essentially what we see in this game is Lionheart sacrificing himself. Well, not really sacrificing himself, but we do try and help out several times. We try and, you know, give some units to kind of support and to try and make him basically survive as long as possible as a way of distracting the wolf from actually attacking us. So call him a bit of a middleman to kind of reduce or decrease the speed at which the wolf can actually get to us. So as you can see, we are sending over a few horse archers, and this is very much going to be the trend of what we try and do in this episode, because even though they have got formidable defensive, they're not a huge amount of archers and crossbowmen on the walls, but you can see how complicated the actual castle is. So with that first kind of little raid done, we're gonna essentially have a few attempts at trying to try and get past and trying to kill some of their archers. And this is the first attempt basically, and we haven't really done an attack on them, and very quickly we realise, okay, here we go again, fire. Fire is going to be used to essentially destroy our entire first wave. We really can't do too much about it. mostly because we weren't really aware of it, but we can move on from that and know that, okay, fire is going to be something that is going to be used against us as we try and attack, so we need to be more clever in the way that we go for it. In the meantime, our friend Richard is being massacred, and there's essentially nothing we can do. We did try and send over a few horse archers once again, as we did kind of earlier on, but we are starting to amass our own army. We need to obviously have shields to be able to defend ourselves against the crossbowmen, against the ballistas, and so on and so forth. So we are kind of having to do that, and we actually ended up making kind of a two segments in the army. We have this first wave, as it were, to try and either trigger the fires, but basically to try and get involved and to distract and essentially to try and kill off the main thing was the catapults on top of the not the catapults, the ballistas, and basically to try and take them out and do as much damage as possible, basically sacrificing these horse archers, which we weren't too worried about. We did use the shields as well to kind of help them survive as long as possible, and they didn't do too bad. I thought they would have kind of not lasted that long, and so they're able to take out and cause a fair bit of disruption to the defences. So I think it's time to bring in our second wave, this time of 178 horse archers, and we even have a few macemen in there to try and get through. And so we start to move around and manoeuvre around, and this time very careful of the fire, and so very quickly having our units selected, ready to move them out of the way as soon as needed. And we continue to manoeuvre around, and the aim of this manoeuvring technique, if you want to call it that, is to basically make sure that we kill out as many, or all basically the archers or a kind of long range units, to make sure that when we then send in our macemen or whatever other unit we decide to use, they're not going to be decimated once they do get in by all the archers around the wall, essentially firing in the middle. And so we have to kind of continuously make our way around, but also being very careful of the fire risk. We do continue to build a few more horse archers to kind of support our main wave, and as I say, we continue and finish off this first circle, as it were, and essentially through that manoeuvre we've been able to essentially kill off almost all the long range units, the archers, the ballistas, everything. And so we only really have to worry about the knights and the pikemen are actually inside, and just need to kill off this crossbowman real quick. But that is going to be essentially all we need to do in order to get in. We can now fire from both sides of the castle. We did have our second ranged horse archers come over to support as well, and just firing them on. We have to manually select them to make them fire onto the top of the keep, because they can't actually see there, so we have to manually select that. But the assassins do get in. They're able to get straight to the wolf and actually get the kill, which is great to see. The win is ours. We're very glad to see that Lionheart was able to sacrifice himself for the win. But with that, if this has been entertaining in any way, shape or form, please make sure you subscribe and like the video, and we will see you next time.